Welcome to the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast, where we can look into the world of Royal Caribbean cruising. I'm your host, Matt Hochberg, and this is episode number 558. This past week, I was on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas for the first time in, well, almost a year and more than a year since Icon debuted, and I wanted to share with you things that really stood out about this ship more than a year since her initial debut. With all that hype, how does it really add up? Let's talk about it. Here we go. It's been over a year since Icon of the Seas debuted, and I really was surprised when we had this cruise booked that I hadn't been on her since July. It just seemed like, inevitably I would have been on Icon since then, because the last time I was on Icon was the Royal Caribbean Blog group cruise, and the reality is it wasn't. What happened, I think, in a lot of cases was Utopia just took over, and we did a lot of sailings on Utopia since her debut, which came up after my last sailing on Icon. But I loved Icon when I went on her, but I was a little leery of, would it still hold up? Would it still be as good as I remembered? That was something I thought about a lot, and I was concerned that while I've told everybody that Icon is my new favorite cruise ship out there, would it really, be as good as I remembered? And the good news is, spoiler alert, it was. Icon is truly incredible, and it's the things that, big and small they do, right? Big things. It's got, I think, the best pool setup in the fleet. It's got amazing shows on board. It's got an entire water park and does small things. It does crowd management extremely well. The destination elevators are amazing. If you tried them on Utopia and weren't blown away by them, I don't blame you because they're signs out the same thing. But here on Icon, it's terrific. Really, really good stuff all around. So really, when we went on this kind of a cruise, we were looking at it from, would we be able to recreate the magic? I think that's always a question I have when I go on any ship, especially ones I've repeated before, where is it going to be as good as I remember? And considering how often I cruise, I oftentimes will repeat ships. And I feel like, ships that are more in the middle there, when I've been on Mariner of the Seas, who knows how many times now, Freedom of the Seas, Brilliance of the Seas, I've been on them so many times, they're so consistent to their credit that I'm not really ever worried or concerned, oh man, it's not going to be as good as I remember it. But Icon being a brand new ship, it had so much hype with it. And that really, I think, added to it. Anyway, we did a 7-night cruise out of Miami going to the Western Caribbean. We had stops in Roatan, Costa Maya, Cozumel, and Perfect Day at Coco Cay. And off the bat, let me start with that. Having 4 port stops, and that means only 2 sea days, that was, I wouldn't say rough, it wasn't, but it really limited the amount of activities we could do. I just never got to the pool deck on Icon, which was kind of surprising. There were a couple different times where I was like, I'm going to the pool tomorrow or today, whatever the case may be. I never got there because there's so many things happening that before you know it, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. And of course, in addition to doing all the things that I want to do from a Royal Caribbean Blog research standpoint, there's also, vacation stuff where I like relaxing, hanging out, spending time with my family, and of course, eating. Dining is so good on this ship. But what's interesting about this itinerary, and it might not have happened on an Eastern, is by not having a third sea day, our working theory between me and my wife was that I think that was the issue, that we didn't have as much time on the ship. And in retrospect, if I made a mistake, it was booking too much. Going into the cruise, I booked a shore excursion in every single port, something to do at the very least. And I probably would have canceled or not booked, however you want to look at it, what I did in Cozumel. Not because it was bad. We had a great time at Paradise Beach, but we had done Roatan, and we did a beach day there. We had done Costa Maya, and we had done a beach day there. And then Cozumel was another beach day. And we were like, we already paid for it. And we're like, the day before and even the morning of, we're like, oh man, it really would just be so much nicer to stay on the ship. Because as many of you know, staying on the ship in a port day is a great opportunity, especially on big ships, to take advantage of what the ship has to offer, namely the pool deck and the water slides. And not only would it have meant we could have slept in a little bit more, but also it would have allowed us to, I think, enjoy the ship more. So if I could go back in time, I would not have booked the 3rd beach day in a row. It happened to be Cozumel in this case. Again, don't read into that anything what we did in Cozumel was bad. Just 3 beach days in a row is a lot of beach. And it's hard to, I don't know that I really could have known that ahead of time. In a lot of cases, when you look at your plans, you're doing this from your desk, from your couch, there's air conditioning abound you. Every idea sounds like a great idea until you actually get there. It's not, again, this wasn't a bad idea. I just could not have anticipated that 3 beach days in a row might have been a mistake. But that was one thing that kind of stood out about this itinerary. We took the train down to Miami. We live in Orlando, Brightline train, super easy, great. We actually stayed in a brand new hotel both to us and brand new in general, the Gale Hotel. There's actually one in South Beach. That's not the one I stayed at. I stayed at the one in downtown Miami, and it's a great hotel. Beautiful, really, really nice. I will say this, and I'm probably going to do like a YouTube video or an article about this as well. Staying downtown Miami is kind of doing yourself a disservice in the sense that you're much better off somewhere else, namely Brickell or the Wynwood neighborhoods. There's just not a lot happening downtown. There's not a lot of restaurants. It's not very convenient to walk around. You can, and we took advantage of actually I don't know what the heck they call it, like the Miami Metro Mover. It's a free monorail, if you want to call it that goes around. Anyway, it's just, we would have been better off staying in Brickell, but for whatever reason, I wanted to try this hotel. Hotel was fantastic. Really, I would recommend it, and it was a lot cheaper than some of the other options out there, but yeah, I kind of regretted not staying in Brickell, where you can. Brickell's a great neighborhood just south of downtown, and there's so many restaurants, so many bars. It's a wonderful place to explore on foot. Whereas downtown, I don't want to call it seedy. It's not, but it's not exactly a place you want to hang out at, and there's not a whole lot going on there. So, and the reason why people book downtown is because it's the hotel's area closest to the port. But you're not walking to the cruise port. So it almost seems like it doesn't matter. You're taking a lift no matter what. And the cost of a lift or a taxi from Brickell or Wynwood compared to downtown, in my opinion, is a negligible difference. So there you go. There's my take on that. As for getting there, I was really worried about the traffic in Miami. We had read some things about Miami traffic being really bad at Terminal A. And to that point, I was a little leery, but it ended up not being a problem in both embarkation and disembarkation. I'm not sure if it helped that Royal Caribbean was giving away free transfers to guests. I'm not sure. You can't plan that'll be the case for you when you go on Icon, but we got an email like, I don't know, a week or two before the cruise, like, hey, even if you booked it, we're going to give you a free transfer if you'd like it to. That was only the airport. Wouldn't have helped us because we were going to the train station, but maybe that helped a little bit. Anyway, traffic was not an issue. Got in. There was a big sign on the outside the terminal that the doors wouldn't open until I think like 10:45, but they were open right around 10 o'clock, a little before then. Check-in process, super easy. It does help, of course, that I am a Pinnacle member, so we're able to go on the suite line, but I'll tell you this much. Whether you're going the main line in Terminal A or not, it's super easy. Both Terminal A in Miami and Terminal 1 in Port Canaveral are the easiest, simplest check-in. Actually, the new one in Galveston is probably not bad as well, as I recall. So, they're basically engineered check-in processes for big ships like this, and it works extremely well. And on this cruise, we had a lot we wanted to do. We wanted to visit some things we've done, do things that we had done before. But obviously, off the bat, my biggest thing was how good or effective will the crowd management be? Because that was something that really stood out about Icon the first time around, was that there were no crowds on board. And the answer is, it still very much is that case. There are, of course, you'll find people. I'm not pretending it's your own private yacht. But at the same time, they did such a great job with crowd management on Icon. Like, unless there's a party or a show is letting out or something to that effect, where I call it like an engineered crowd, where like it's designed to have people around, there really aren't crowds at all. I felt like it really did a good job of crowd management, making things feel very open. It was, and when the pool deck is a great example of this. I'm not gonna say you're gonna get a chair right at the pool at Royal Bay at noon if you just roll in at noon, but I will tell you that I feel like there are plenty of chairs on the pool deck compared to other ships. If you roll into the pool deck at 12 noon, 1 o'clock on Icon of the Seas, you will find chairs on the pool deck. They might be in the shade, they might be towards the side, but there are chairs. Whereas, on any other Royal Caribbean cruise ship, good luck with that. If the weather is, of course, really nice. But, that was something that jumped out at me. In terms of other things, I was looking for changes. I really didn't find many. One was that base camp is now completely complimentary. Previously, there were like a couple of complimentary options and a bunch of others that cost extra. But I think Royal Caribbean figured out this was a mistake to charge for it, because basically, no one was paying for it. I mean, why would you pay for I forget what the free things and the pay things were before, but it was silly to charge for them. So now it's all free, although they did condense the menu a little bit. They dropped 2 items, including the cheese curds, but now base camp is included. So that way, if you're at the water park, or you're at Hideaway, or you're at the mini golf and you want to get something to eat, you don't have to walk all the way back to the Windjammer. You have something a little more convenient there. And I tell you, my kids loved the warm pretzel bites. That was really, really good. Also, something else that also changed, by the way. The library still has a few books left. And Ryan Bean doesn't open until 10 a.m. That used to be one of my favorite little secrets about Icon was that instead of going to Pearl Cafe for your morning coffee, you go to Ryan Bean in the, I was going to call it the solarium, in the Aquadome, and you go there for coffee with a far shorter line, but it didn't open until 10 a.m., so that secret might be dead, unfortunately. The other thing that really I was curious to see was how good the shows were. I was really disappointed with the shows on Utopia, but the shows on Icon, fantastic. Wizard of Oz is so darn good. The production quality is absolutely amazing. Off the charts. So good. It's a must-see. The Aqua Theater show, better than I remember. I remember being bored at one point. I think the skateboarding scene is completely unnecessary. Like, it is cool they're skateboarding, and I cannot skateboard, so I'm not pretending that I'm better than them by any means. But all they do is set up a mini half pipe, and they do a couple of, I think it's an ollie they do on there. But they don't do, like, in the grand scheme of skateboarding tricks, I don't think it's that impressive. It takes up too much time because the robot arms got to set it up and take it away. If they got rid of that scene, I'd be okay with the rest of the show. I feel like most roller coaster shows may be a little too long, but this one, yeah, get rid of that scene. Otherwise, the rest of the show, absolutely fantastic. The Batman scene and the Star Wars scene, so good. Love that quite a bit. And the ice skating show is always good. I love the ice skating shows. It's hard to go wrong with that. The one show I actually skipped, my family went to go see it because I'd seen it before, was Effectors. Listen, I've seen Effectors on, oh my goodness, how many ships I've seen the Effectors show on. The problem is, it's the same story. This is Effectors' origin story, except didn't we already do the origin story with the first? I don't know. Anyway, I digress. I just didn't care to see the same origin story for the third time again. I skipped that one, but if you've never seen it, you should definitely see it. It's good. It's just, I'm a little jaded in that regard, but I freely admit that's the case. But the shows are absolutely fantastic on board. And then, of course, you have the amazing dining on Icon that I alluded to a little bit earlier. We had dinner at a couple different restaurants. Izumi and Giovanni's we ate at twice. We ate at Chops once. You know, Chops is kind of interesting only because I try not to eat that much red meat. I was going to say I don't like red meat. It's not true. I do like red meat. I'm trying not to eat red meat for health reasons. So I've got kind of a horse in the game, if you will. That being said, this time around, I wasn't terribly impressed with the quality of it. It's interesting. I think all my wife and my kids all got filet mignon, and I got the tomahawk steak off the Iconic Cuts menu, and I was browbeaten into trying it on YouTube live whenever it told me I should try it, so I gave it a try, and it was fine. I'm not the world's biggest steak expert, but a lot of fillets came back, like, usually with Royal Caribbean, when you order a steak and you ask for whatever you ask for, medium, it comes back medium well. Like, they always overcook it, and in this case, it was, I think, undercooked, so it was a little chewy, but, it's just, unfortunately, sometimes that just happens at restaurants where it's not exactly as you remember it, but it's still good. It was like we went hungry or anything like that, but that was just the notable effort that changed a little bit. Otherwise, Izumi, fantastic. We did both sushi, and we actually did sushi twice, one on Embarkation Day, and then we did hibachi. Giovanni's we did twice. I'm not the world's biggest fan of Giovanni's on the promenade. It is loud. It doesn't bother me because we're having a conversation anyway, and I am not of the opinion that restaurants should be like libraries, unless you're in like Chef's Table or something like that. But otherwise, a little noise isn't bad. Would I have picked that? No, I think the location as an example on Utopia, phenomenal, right? So I'm just comparing, contrasting, quite frankly. The one thing, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I think Icon needs like one more really good like signature restaurant. They have Empire Supper Club, but Empire Supper Club is super niche. It's $200 a person. It's a 3-hour meal. That's not a kind of restaurant you're going to do every single cruise. They do have Hooked, but the problem with Hooked is it's very polarizing. Either you love shellfish or you don't. And I feel like people fall on both sides of the fence there. And for what it's worth, friends of mine that do eat shellfish don't usually rave about Hooked. So I just wish there was something else that you could do to work in there so you don't have to repeat as much. I mean, Playmakers, is obviously an option there. The Trellis Bar has food, but these are casual places. It's not like, hey, let's go have dinner over here. I have had dinner at Playmakers, but you know what I mean? Like something a little nicer, if you will, a little less casual. So that's something else that I would point out. And the one venue, my go-to I really wanted to try was Dueling Pianos, because I really wanted to enjoy it again and see if I really did enjoy it as much as I did the first time. And yeah, I mean, it's a little kitschy, especially the early show. I think my advice is, unless you've got young kids or just kids in general, I'd skip the first show, the first set. It's very family-oriented, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just feel like it's a little over the top, like family. And I'm not looking for like adults only raunchy comedy, but I feel like there needs to be a blend. Anyway, the later shows, they do like 2 or 3 sets a night. We're totally fine there. The problem with Dueling Pianos is it's impossible to get a seat. I mean, the reason to go to the first set is to get a seat, and then you have to sit there and camp out for it, because the seats really, unless you go to the third set, which usually doesn't begin until like 11, it's very difficult to get a seat there. Very difficult. And that was like the only hindrance to enjoying dueling piano. So overall, we had a great time on Icon, and I'm sure anybody listening to this podcast knows very much all about Icon, because it's been very top of mind for everybody. It's this brand new, amazing ship in the world. I will say it's worthy of all the accolades. Everything you've heard about Icon is worth it. Yeah, it's expensive, but I really do feel like some of the touches, some of the things they offer on here, you just simply can't get anywhere else. All right, friends, time to answer listener emails. This is the part of the episode where I answer emails you've sent me. You can always send me your emails by sending them to matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com. First email is from Richard, aka This Tall to Ride. Hi, Matt. Appreciate everything you do. Your information is extremely valuable in planning our cruise. We're 40 days from our Independence of the Seas cruise for the first cruise. We booked an interior guarantee cabin. We checked in at our 45-day window, and our cabin has not been assigned. I tried the barcode trick, and all three of our barcodes had different last four numbers. My wife is pregnant and is freaking out that the room hasn't been assigned yet because of the horror stories of overbooking. What are the chances that we'll be left behind on the dock, or something else I can do, short of paying for an upgrade because we booked what we could afford, to get the room assigned, or is there typical stateroom time where they are assigned? Richard, always appreciate your emails. Thank you. I will say this, and the answer, you probably already got your assignment by now, but honestly, this is the thing with guaranteed cabins. It can take, officially, the answer is they could assign your cabin the day of the cruise. And when I was on Enchantment of the Seas in January, it took until like a week or two before the sailing for my cabin to be assigned. In a lot of cases, the cabins are for unsold cabins. The guaranteed cabins are for unsold cabins. And what they're trying to do is either one of two things. One, either there's an unsold cabin and like no one's booked it yet, and they get to within a certain time frame and they assign it. Otherwise, they wait for cancellations, and people cancel all the time. And I think in the case of my Enchantment cruise, that's exactly what happened. Someone would cancel at the last minute, because when I booked my cruise with a guarantee, there were no balcony cabins left, and then I got one later on. So that must have been what happened. Anyway, the chances of you being left behind are extremely, extremely unlikely. The most recent cases where we had people oversold the ship and didn't get on there was in Australia last year, and it never got confirmed, but word on the street was they had some cabins reserved for folks that were sick with COVID, and that's the reason why. But anyway, I would tell you this. I would tell this to your wife, I guess, to answer your question. You should not worry one bit. Your room will be assigned. But when you book a guaranteed cabin, ladies and gentlemen, there are two truths that you must be, I'm talking to everybody, Richard, not just you. But there are two truths about a guaranteed cabin you have to be 100% okay with when you book a guarantee. Number one, you have no choice, no control over where the room will be located. And number two, it could take until the day of your cruise for the room to be assigned. If you're not okay with those two things, don't book a guaranteed cabin. That's my best advice for anybody going forward. Next email is from Margie. Hi, Matt. Love your blog, but don't know if you've ever addressed this. When you select include gratuities of booking, the money the cruise line collects, how is that divided up and among who? I always check it, thinking it's going to all those behind the scenes people that help make my cruise the best that I won't interact with. I then choose to leave my cabin steward and dining staff additional cash. I've read that behind the scenes people aren't paid a salary per se from the cruise line, but are dependent on these gratuities. I find that pretty hard to believe and wonder if you could share some insight. Margie, thanks for the email. So there's obviously the nature of gratuities are not shared directly with guests as to like who gets what. Number one, the people behind the scenes, the guy who's fixing the maintenance lines, things like that, they're paid a salary. Your gratuities go towards essentially four fundamental people: your stateroom attendant, your main dining room staff, which includes your head waiter, your assistant waiter, and your head waiter. Did I say that right? Your main waiter, your assistant waiter, and your head waiter. Now, in addition to that, some of that gratuity money is siphoned off into a crew fund. That crew fund is what goes to quote-unquote behind-the-scenes people. Basically, the ship organizes different things. They will do parties for the crew members. They will do fundraising activities. They'll do contests for crew members. And that's where some of that money, and when I say some of that money, I'm talking like maybe $1 or $2 that comes out of it. I mean, not a lot, but obviously over the course of multiple sailings, thousands of people, it all adds up. So I think you kind of get that. With that being said, I always pay my automatic gratuities. I always prepay, and then I do exactly what you do, Margie, which is I will tip both the cabin attendants and my dining staff additional cash. I don't tip them like I haven't paid gratuities at all, but I pay them something a little extra. So thank you for taking care of my bratty kids. Thank you for taking care of the extra requests we've had, things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying what I do and what you do should be the same thing. I get that everyone's just your own choice, but I will say this, Margie, I feel very confident in the gratuity situation, and that the automatic gratuities are certainly sufficient. And beyond that, anything beyond that is simply discretionary. And of course, there's a whole other conversation about who to tip beyond those people, like, cabana attendants and somebody getting a drink for you at the bar, but that's a different story. Next up is from Linda Cook as our next email. I was wondering about the repricing policy and if it's changed. In the past, I was been able to reprice multiple times. I currently have deposits on multiple cruises, and I repriced one last week and one today. On both of these recent occasions, I was told I can only reprice one time, which I did, and told I would not be able to do it again. After repricing last week, I researched the website for this supposedly new policy, but could only find the one where I could reprice the final payment or get an upgrade after final payment. I was wondering if you knew what their current policy is. Nothing's changed, Linda. Whoever told you that doesn't know what they're talking about. So if you did this directly with Royal Caribbean, just hang up and call and talk to somebody else until you get the answer you want. That's absolutely not the policy where you can only reprice once. Somebody just doesn't know what they're talking about. If it's your travel agent's misinformed in this situation. I can only tell you this, Linda, that our good friends at MEI Travel do this all the time. Nothing's changed in that policy. So good news. It's just sometimes this happens. You just have to call back and get somebody who's going to give you the right answer there. Next up is an email from Charlie. 28 Days to Harmony. Can you tell me which non-alcoholic beers they served on Harmony of the Seas? I believe it's Heineken Zero. If I'm not mistaken, it's the only one I remember seeing there. So there you go. Next up, we have an email from Wendy Stravitz. Hey, Matt, we're currently on Icon for the second time, and we're at Coco Key today. Been here a million times since we started to cruise frequently once it returned from COVID shutdowns. Anyway, I enjoy reading your blogs and Twitter, and only recently found out about you and the secret sandwich at the Snack Shack. Well, I gotta tell you, just ate one, and man, oh man, you weren't kidding. Who knew mozzarella sticks on a fried chicken sandwich would be so delish? Thank you for sharing that secret tip with us. Definitely our best meal of the week. Not fans of Royal Caribbean food at all, even at Coastal, so this was a wonderful surprise. One day I'm just here doing the Lord's work, sharing with you guys how to eat secret sandwiches out there. Next up, we got an email from Whiskey and Sunshine. Matt, my wife and I are getting back into cruising after being on land for a couple of years. This coming June, we'll be on Oasis, and I hear that the cabin attendant only comes once a day, and you get to choose if they come morning or evening. That's correct, unless you're in a suite. But if you're in a balcony or lower, once a day, and you're correct. We have our 15-year-old son with us, who will be using a pull-out sofa. If we opt to have morning cleaning, will the cabin steward come back in the evening to open up the pull-out sofa so my son can sleep on it, or will it be our responsibility? It's either, no, you could do it either way, but he or she can come back to do that. You just have to let them know. Basically, when you meet the cabin steward, they should give you their card. You can call them and say, hey, can you come over and, open it up in the evening? That should be a problem. Honestly, what we do is we just leave the bed open. I know that could be a little cumbersome getting around, but if your son wants to take a nap or something like that in the afternoon, I feel like that's more useful. But yeah, we usually just do it that way. Thank you for over 10 years of honest, unbiased, straightforward information we can trust. Here's to many more years. Thank you so much for the kind words. Appreciate that. Next email is from It's Tea Time. Hey, Matt, I know change is inevitable, but I definitely feel slighted as a loyal to Royal cruiser for the past 23 years. Before Oasis class ships, I only cruised occasionally and preferred land vacations. Since the debut of the Oasis class, I cruise multiple times per year solely on those ships. I just don't like the other classes as I use the ship as a destination, relaxing in the serenity of Central Park each morning before the breakfast crowds arrive. I tried one 4-day cruise and disliked the vibe. You may not associate it with a booze cruise, but if it walks and quacks like a duck, I don't know what else it could be. I'm not interested in Icon or cruises less than 7 nights. I just booked a 7-night cruise on MSC World America, which is a replica Oasis class ship. Although I'm not ready to completely abandon Royal, I refuse to be loyal to them as they have chosen greed, not profit, over loyal cruisers. I respect your opinion. I would say a couple things. Number one, yeah, MSC, I hope you like MSC, but MSC to me is like the Soviet Union of cruise ships. They basically reverse engineer what the other companies do, and then it's never quite the same thing. I hope you have a wonderful time. I've just not heard great things about MSC. But let's skip that for a second. I get where you're coming from, that you like the Oasis class, you like doing 7-night sailings. Good news, Symphony's still doing that. And that's going out of Galveston. I'm not sure where you live. You didn't say, so I'm not sure if you're flying around. If you are, then obviously you have Galveston, and you get your Oasis class ship over there doing 7-night cruises, and who knows what Oasis 7 will do when she comes out, and who knows what'll come out beyond this. Right now we only have a deployment for a small segment where you've got 4 ships doing less than 7-night sailings. This is back, by the way, this email is from episode 557. If I'm being honest with you, and I mean this is no disrespect, but the fact you're disregarding the entire fleet and focusing on just the Oasis class, I mean, that's a pretty small subsection of ships you're willing to sail on, because obviously you can go on 7-night cruises on other ships, and a lot of loyal cruisers, including myself, really like the Voyager class and the Freedom class, and heck, a lot of people really still love the Radiance class. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just pointing out that there are other options out there, but I get where you're coming from. You love the Oasis class, you want Central Park, got it. And I feel like at the end of the day, nothing's forever. And I talked about this, I think, in that episode where, eventually this will change and we'll see there's an ebb and a flow to all deployments. No ship is ever in the same place forever. No ship ever does the same itinerary forever. They could be there for a couple of years. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's here for 2 weeks doing this. It could be for a little while, but not in the not forever. And you said I'm not interested in Icon. Boy, if you like the Oasis, you love Icon. I mean, they're more similar than they're not. But anyway, I get where you're coming from. I appreciate you sharing your feedback. I'm just sharing my feedback on your feedback. Hopefully you're not taking any of this. I'm not attacking you or anything. You're more than entitled to feel that way. But there is still Symphony. I would recommend trying Icon. I really think it is worthwhile, or Star, when it comes out. There's a lot of other options out, and I know you like Central Park, but really, try a Quantum class, try a Freedom class. Those are great ships. They don't have Central Park. You're right. But they do offer something different. There's a little je ne sais quoi that comes with them. And not only that, they're probably cheaper than the Oasis class in a lot of cases. So that might be a nice bonus for you too. I think we had another email here from 557. Yes, from our good friend Ed Vira. Hi, Matt. I had a response to your most recent episode about negative responses to the short cruise controversy. I think I have a different perspective on things. I entered my mid-20s right around that mid to late 90s when Las Vegas exploded into its period, what they called their Disney, where they try to turn themselves into a flashy family destination. And my family, because we live so close to San Diego, visited all the time to the brand new flashy destinations they had, whether it was an Excalibur or a Luxury or Luxor, I think he meant to say, or the MGM Grand, and saw all the various things that were there. And I'm sure we drove all the classic Vegas people nuts, seeing all the family attractions and all the new flashy things that was there. And my kids drove them nuts, tracing all over their precious casinos for 10 years. Gradually, that fell by the wayside. Now Vegas is pretty much a semi-sleazy place it's always been. I would disagree with that conclusion, but nonetheless. Anyway, now I'm not saying that giant ships are going to be going by the wayside and die out like a lot of the flashy year aspects of the 90s and did in Vegas, but balance will be restored eventually. I think in the cruising industry, they're just expanding like Vegas did expand. It's an interesting take. I would point out this, Ed. Number one, again, good take. I'm not disagreeing with you. I would just say this. Number one, Royal Caribbean has, and always will be, a family cruise line. So that's not really, I feel like the Vegas comparison doesn't quite hold up, because Vegas was, right, you're right, it was like very adult focused, then went family focused, and now it's probably Vegas, I think, is still very much a blend of both. I think, well, we're not here to talk about Las Vegas, but I would simply say that I don't think it's quite back to being adults only. There's still very much a family aspect of Las Vegas that's there. As for Royal Caribbean, the family aspect doesn't change. And things do change, though, in the industry. I mean, I talked about this in episode 557. There's an evolution of the cruise industry. I remember when Richard Fain was talking. Richard Fain was the CEO of Royal Caribbean Group during COVID. And he had I remember this one video he did where he talked about, people were saying, hey, Richard, is this the new normal? And he talked about and went in depth, like, there is no new normal. There's always a new normal in cruising. Cruising has evolved. If you look at cruising in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and now, there's always been an evolution. Now, COVID obviously changed some things temporarily, but there's always going to be an evolution. It's not a stagnant product. And that's part of, I think, the appeal of it. It's not always the same old, same old. Like, I don't want to do the same old, same old. Sometimes I do, but not all the time. Like, I like the idea that Royal Caribbean is pushing forward, breaking boundaries, trying new things. Now, Royal Caribbean right now is going after Las Vegas and Orlando. They want the family cruise market that traditionally would go to a theme park or a city like Las Vegas and instead do a cruise ship. But that's an extension of what they were already doing, because it was always a family brand. We're talking about the same company that had DreamWorks for a number of years, and has Adventure Ocean as the focal point of their ships and a variety of their family-focused things. So that doesn't really change, just the natural evolution of all of this. And the fact the Oasis-class ships are doing short cruises, it has nothing to do with families. It has to do with first-time cruisers. If their company wants to grow the brand, they want to get more customers, and first-time cruisers are where it's at. Again, as I pointed out in that episode, a number of years ago, it was Enchantment and Majesty doing, 3 and 4 nighters out of Port Canaveral. Now it's going to be Utopia and Harmony, I think, in 2026, 27. I mean, it's going to change. And in 2 years, it'll be something else that'll be doing that. I just feel like, number one, it is what it is. Number two, if you don't like what it is, it'll change a little bit. And I'm not going to get hung up on it, because there are, as I mentioned, 20 other ships in the fleet that can offer something different than that. Whereas Las Vegas, I mean, I guess you can use the hotel example. If you don't like the Luxor anymore, you can go to the, the MGM. I can't even think of other hotels there. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like, there's other choices out there. The Oasis class is not the end all be all of what makes a Royal Caribbean cruise. I get that it's very popular, and for good reason. I like them too. And I don't want to go to the Bahamas every single cruise. So I'm with you on all those things. But, there's a bigger picture at play. Is all I'm just trying to say. But I appreciate the feedback. Again, Ed and the person we talked to just before this, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I hope you're not. None of this is coming across as me saying here's why you're wrong, or I just don't necessarily agree with your takes on it. But that's okay. I'm asking for feedback. This is part of what we do here on the podcast. We have an opportunity to talk about these kinds of things. All right, we have time for one more email. That's me from Dave. Very good evening, Matt. Just wanted to say thanks for your blogs and videos. Learning a lot, and I very much enjoy Royal Caribbean cruises. Have a question regarding Harmony. I'll be taking a back-to-back cruise on Harmony, so that'll be 14 days. It'll be my first time on Harmony, and I've been on other Oasis-class ships and love them. I have a chance to take the very next 5-day cruise on Harmony, and I'm wondering if 19 days is too long. Is there enough to do on the ship so it won't be boring? The longest previous cruise I've taken is 8 days. Fortunately, the ports are different for the 3 cruises, except for the stops at, of course, Royal Caribbean Private Island, which I thoroughly enjoy, so I don't mind the multiple stops. Think I should go for it. It's a great question. How long is too long? We could probably spend a whole episode talking about that. Ultimately, if you're going to do 14 days, the extra 5 probably doesn't make a huge difference. I feel like once you get past about day 8 or 9, you either love it or you hate it. And whether it's 15 or 9, I don't know that it really makes that much of a difference. I would say this. You love cruising. I think it'll be a really interesting option for you. And the really cool thing is you get a chance to really not only see everything on board the ship, but experience everything on the ship. And crew members, and they'll know you. It's kind of cool because when you do that long of a sailing, like you're going to, especially if you have the same room, you go to the same place, the same bars and whatnot, like you're not going to see maybe all the shows 3 times. But you do, it's almost like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. It's kind of cool. There's a little bit of a community sense. It's very liberating that you have so much time. You don't feel rushed. You can relax more. You can sleep in more. So I'd say go for it. I mean, I'm always of the opinion more cruising is better. So there you go. Dave, thanks for the email. Thank you to everybody for checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog podcast. If I can answer your emails, you go send me matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com, matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.